Welcome to the Krusty Fox. I'll let the title of the episode, which this week's Sex and the Shitty examines, speak for itself. Are we slits? And don't forget to put out with a like if you enjoy the video, make it easy by subscribing for more every week, and don't wait for marriage, but do wait until the end for last week's top comment and this week's question. We open with an obvious but important contrast. After a night out with new boyfriend Aiden, who she's graciously upgraded from lowly craftsman to furniture designer, Carrie is confused to find him unwilling to go all in on an adult sleepover. Probably because now that she's quit smoking for him, her apartment's hellish smellscape sits somewhere between butcher's apron and midwife's forearm. On the other hand, Samantha, because she actually knows how to navigate sex and relationships, has a much more successful time when she greets a late-night booty call with a flash of her norks at the front door. A tactic we can assume she retires around Halloween, just in case her trick-or-treats land her in a jail cell. Triggered! The next morning, she's horrified twice in quick succession. Firstly, to discover that one of her several elderly neighbours was robbed at gunpoint. And secondly, that the criminal in question gained entry by following in the wake of her after-dark slap and tickle appointment. At breakfast, both Carrie and Samantha are grateful for the distracting emergence of Charlotte's latest drama. I suppose, at least this time, it's a good one. Her third date with investment banker Alexander ended with some post-dinner poking, which came to a screaming, verbally abusive climax. While the others consider this fairly routine, Charlotte takes a more literal view. She worries that Alexander's spirited analysis of her virtue might actually ring true. Nobody's brave enough to remind her that she has nothing to worry about unless he yells the words shallow, vain, or conceited next time. After Samantha warns Carrie that she has to seal the deal with Aiden ASAP before slipping into the friend zone permanently, she takes another crack at him. After being pied off yet again, her childish reaction forces him to explain that he's trying to take it slow and enjoy her company before going groping for trout. Sex and relationship columnist Carrie Bradshaw, who literally tens of women look to for guidance every week if there's nothing better on the opposite page, then has to stick a post-it note to her computer reminding her that romance exists, fully suggesting that whatever travesty might eventually lead to her winning a Pulitzer Prize would reduce the award's value down to that of the most common pogs. Out on a walk, Carrie's lament about her blunted dating senses is cut short by Miranda's sudden admission that she's got the clap. Her sleuthing to identify patient zero is less Columbo and more Inspector Clouseau, as the finger of blame is immediately pointed towards poor old Steve. Which is like inviting over a string of mangy old strays, but waiting until you adopt a new puppy to blame it for the river of piss running through your apartment. Back home and mulling over Charlotte's bedroom tongue lashing, Miranda's venereal disease, and her own sexual speedrunning, Carrie decides to broadcast the whole lot via her next column. Wondering how many is too many for a single New Yorker, her headline simply, beautifully reads, "Are we s***s?" During dinner with Alexander, Charlotte's suffering flashbacks to his ejaculatory roast like she just returned from a war zone. When she finally broaches the topic, it turns out that he doesn't actually remember saying any of it, and she takes this as a sign that he therefore couldn't possibly have meant it.
Delusion. Convince yourself.
Not to paint with a broad brush, but the fact that he's an investment banker should have tipped her off that what he says and what he does aren't necessarily in perfect alignment. But not to worry, she gets a practical demonstration not long afterwards, when she invites him back into her bed for round 2. When his dick sneeze is accompanied by the same unpoetic oral onslaught as last time, she calls him out on it before he's even finished misting her banana plant. This is where any benefit of the doubt for Alexander entirely evaporates, because he again claims not to remember what he said 5 seconds earlier. From behind his 2006 Zac Efron fringe and eyebrows, he promises never to do it again. With all the fake sincerity of 2022 Zac Efron swearing blind that he isn't 1 decade away from an appearance on Botched. Over at Miranda's place, Steve's advances are cut down in their prime by this highly unrecommended approach to sexual health disclosure.
I can't tonight I have chlamydia.
Worryingly, Steve doesn't know what that is. Frankly, Steve, if you're old enough to have it, then you're old enough to understand it. After giving an impromptu STD crash course, Miranda orders a reluctant Steve down to the free clinic to sort out his potential penile pox. Dutifully trotting down there despite his white coat syndrome, Steve makes a common mistake by turning up without a full bladder. And so he's presented with the opportunity to find out firsthand what it must be like to be a corn dog. Meanwhile, Miranda undertakes the dreaded listing of previous partners, ahead of a cold calling spree in which she'll have a little more to offer than discounted life insurance. The list in question doesn't actually include Skipper, but does include Guy from Delhi. So she's either forgotten about him entirely at this point, or decided to permanently remove him from the gene pool. Taking the frankly baffling decision to make the calls from her office, it's all relatively plain sailing at first. Until, that is, she calls up former bedroom partner and perennial fury goblin David, who you may remember from season 2. He abrasively reveals that he was the likely source of Miranda's crotch rot, before hanging up to go have a pre-lunch rage stroke. A true ray of sunshine, in much the same way as the glow from Chernobyl was a true ray of moonlight. In spite of his earlier clarity, Carrie invites Aiden over while still entertaining the idea that she might get friend-zoned harder than a teenage cosplayer at a cheerleader's pool party. She fails to see how she might not be helping her own case when she reveals that she doesn't own matching dinnerware and eats a spring roll in front of him like a bloodhound trying to shotgun a stick of butter. Evidently keen to cram as much unappealing behaviour as possible into a single evening, she calls Charlotte while Aiden's in the bathroom to accuse him of dropping a Chinese takeout propelled steamer. When he summons her to observe his work, she's thankfully greeted not with a steamed butt dumpling, but with a candlelit bath. She's quick to undercut this romantic gesture by comparing it to a Danielle Steele novel, a simile on par with likening the best comedy show you've ever seen to a James Corden monologue during a writer's strike. On a trip through the increasingly treacherous territory of her building's lobby, Samantha is accosted by an octogenarian mob. Having established that she was the cause of the recent B&E, they want her and her youthful genitalia to take their business elsewhere. She concludes that it is probably time for a move before at least one of her pleasure centres is put permanently out of commission by the jammed-in end of a walking frame. Back in Charlotte's bed, Alexander's trying to avoid strike 3 by also avoiding eye contact or making noise of any kind, like some kind of horny weeping angel. When she realises that he can't strike white oil without explosively dehumanising her, she allows him to perform his sweary rain dance one last time. At Miranda's place, Steve lets her know that his test results came back negative, which leads to a discussion of their respective body counts. Hers ends up in the low 40s, which she's initially ashamed of until she learns that Steve's is what sounds like significantly more. He puts this down to being a bartender, which they both laugh off, but it does downgrade their first meeting from meet cute to meet Margaret. Carrie's voiceover ham-fistedly attempts to make the valid and by now well-known point that high numbers have historically been seen as a source of shame for women but pride for men. To which I say, nobody's last words are, "I wish I'd dipped the wick less." Except maybe those with stage 4 syphilis. Following a date at a blues club, Aiden reveals to Carrie that he's arranged a sitter for his dog Pete so that he can finally let her board the beef bus. She nervously leads him to bed and admits that it's because this spot of tunnel patrol is actually going to mean something. Yes, Carrie. It means he's about to lock himself into a hell ride that would make a snuff movie look like a Richard Curtis rom-com. And on that cheery note, we come to last week's top comment. I asked whether you'd ever experienced a bad kisser, and if anything, you've reframed some of what I thought were my past traumas. Ren D had a tongue choker, Nicole Huff had to fend off a biter, and Alex Clementine had to get her Ellen Ripley on to repel a facehugger. And a special mention for Melissa Lawson, whose current boyfriend is now on the path to recovery. Here at the Krusty Fox, we love nothing more than a happy ending. Which I hope he's better at than the kissing, actually. This week's question is, would a partner's body count ever bother you? Or have you ever had it become an issue in a relationship? Answers in the comments below please, and the best will add another notch to the bedpost in the next video. Either way, thanks for watching, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and remember, if you can't be good, be crusty.